What's up, guys? I am the Wrestle Gamer, Double B, Billy Boudreaux. Welcome to WrestleDOWN, the discussion of wrestling now, right here on WGS-TV and StackUp.org. And boy, oh boy, guys, we have an exciting show to talk about, with a lot of things to discuss. Taking a look back at Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, 12-5 Live, NXT. Of course, there was a pay-per-view this past weekend with Impact Wrestling. Hopefully, we can get the Studley Man Ashley in here to talk a little bit about that. But joining me right now for the first hour of the show, ladies and gentlemen, first off, a couple of old friends, if you guys are familiar with me here on YouTube. But for everyone new here on StackUp.org, let me introduce a couple of great friends of mine. First off, he is the creator and founder of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, which can be found right now at facebook.com/groups/HWR chat room. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him as the one, the only, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
Oh, well, I'm doing all right. I'm getting ready to sit down, and let's get this baby rolling.
And ladies and gentlemen, another great friend of mine, we've always referred to him as our resident music mogul over on youtube.com/Lance Moss TV. He is the incomparable Lance Moss. Lance, how you doing?
I'm pretty good. Got me some coffee, and let's cause some carnage.
Well, one of the major things to talk about in the first hour of the show is the Jon Moxley video. Apparently at midnight, right on April 30th at midnight, Dean Ambrose, a.k.a. Jon Moxley, basically released a video. Basically, well, Rick, how would you describe the video from your perspective?
Very simple. It's just saying, look, let me out. And I'm not referring to Kayla's closet, for those of you, as a private joke. Anyways, I think it's just him saying, well, look, I'm tired of being in WWE where I have to follow all of these rules and all these, PR bullshit. Pardon my French for those of you who get upset. And just, it shows that he's breaking free and he can be back to the Jon Moxley that we all know before he went to the WWE.
Now, the question still remains right now is, are we going to see Jon Moxley heading to AEW?
Interesting question, and you would think that would be the obvious direction to go because it's AEW is definitely up and coming, and right now people believe that could be the next threat to the WWE. Personally, I think they have a long way to go, but yeah, that's the obvious choice. But time will tell.
Lance, what do you think?
The way I interpreted that busting out of prison gimmick was him basically busting out of that was the Dean Ambrose to be just a psychotic lunatic, and well, about a 25% chance of him going to AEW, percent of him just causing carnage every damn where else he goes.
Well, if I can add something in, Billy,
go ahead,
real quick.
Go ahead.
A lot of indie wrestlers who we've talked with over the years have always said that, when you make it to the WWE, you make bigger money. But when you leave, you make a lot more money as well because you have those bookers, independent bookers, who want to say, hey, we have a guy from WWE, let's hire him. And they get hired for a lot more. Not to mention, these wrestlers, the former WWE wrestlers, can make their own schedule and work where they feel like it.
Yeah, because to a degree, when you have that WWE status and you go into the independents, you're a well-known name. You're an established name, and you can make the big bucks like that. I mean, look at Ryback. I believe he's charging up onwards about $5,000 an appearance, I believe. But when you have
that's $499,000 too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he still has the ability to actually request that amount of money because he has that standard. He has that accolade behind his name with former WWE wrestler. Because a lot of people, and you said it yourself too, Rick, when people get into the WWE, they consider it to be the top notch, the upper echelon in the wrestling industry. And when you leave WWE and you still have that accolade behind you, it brings a lot of notoriety with it. And what notoriety in some people's minds equals cash.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Don't get me wrong. There are people out there who would pay that $5,000 or whatever just to have him there. There are a lot of people who weren't fans of him, but again, you say he's established, and when you're an established wrestler in the WWE, regardless whether you like them or not, there are people out there that will pay that money.
Definitely, like Lance, even you would go to an indie show if you heard that there was a former WWE wrestler headlining the show, right?
Depends who it was, to be honest with you.
Well, let's say it's a guy.
Ryback?
Well, not Ryback. But somebody who's like well established. Oh yeah, I agree. HBK definitely, because he's got not only has the accolade. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
When it comes to Ryback, feed him less.
Oh, gee. Well, another thing to talk about is the character development when it comes to Bray Wyatt, which seems to be like a big hot button for a lot of people to talk about, is the current direction of this new, I guess, unveiling of the character of Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse. In a sense, we kind of saw the inception of it last week with the debuting of the Firefly Funhouse, and guys, the reaction from me and the Studly Man Ashley is still up on YouTube if you guys want to ever check that video out. And on episode 2, it still kind of left me wondering, what are they doing? I mean, essentially, he introduced a rabbit character in the Firefly Funhouse. He was wearing like a painter's beret. But did anybody notice the picture that he supposedly painted? It was Sister Abigail's house set on fire. Now, Rick, would you kind of interpret any kind of symbolism into that promo with that picture?
Well, you can look at that from different angles. First and foremost, you get I don't know if you heard this, but apparently, according to rumors, is that a lot of bookers and supporters, sponsors, so to speak, were not happy about it, and they want WWE to pull it. But WWE's like, can usually say, you know what? No, we're gonna go run with this. As far as what that actual character means is what's going on, I think he's kind of like slowly in some kind of his own little fantasy world. You could say he's having a midlife crisis, what have you. You also noticed on last week's promo is that showed the word sociopath. So I can seriously see this thing just, okay, fine, let's see how far we can get people and then quickly have them unraveled. Already you can tell, like you said, there's a picture of Abigail burning house. It's just you have these all sadistic little characters running around. So clearly this is not meant to be like a Mr. Rogers Neighborhood. So take that for what you will.
And speaking of symbolism, if you think back to the episode 1 promo, like when he was coming up with his hands over his face and the gloves he was wearing, the two gloves had two different words. I believe on the right hand it had hurt, H-U-R-T, and the left hand had heal on it, H-E-A-L. And again, could we read anything into that? With that being in the segment as well?
Again, I think it goes on with everything that is going with the character. He's trying to be this really happy guy, but on the other hand, in the back of his head, that evil Dark Wyatt, that we've known, definitely is lingering out there. And he's trying to put aside that, and he's just saying, oh, this is all fun. We can have my Fireflies. Oh, we can go, hurt somebody, and it's fun. It's like I said, it's completely delusional, and I think that's a package deal they're trying to run with.
I don't know, Lance, what do you read into these Firefly Funhouse promos now that we've gotten two episodes of it?
It's either one of two things. Either Bray Wyatt has started taking psychedelic drugs, or it's him coming out of a mental break from being deleted.
Well, who knows what we're going to see next, because I'm pretty sure we're going to have an episode 3 of it when it comes to that on next week's Raw and SmackDown. Gentlemen, are there any other topics that you feel like we should discuss right now before we get into the weekend review?
Honestly, I think there is some news. I don't know if you were aware of Kelly and Dane and Alexander Wolf's situation.
As far as Alexander Wolf, I know he is now part of a stable with Walter on NXT UK. But,
okay, yes, but you also know as to why both Dane and Alexander Wolf will move down to NXT brands.
I do not.
Okay, this is the story they wanted out. They're like, as far as we're concerned, we're not working for you guys. Because they wanted out in WWE. For some reason, of course, continue to keep people that want out. And so WWE's like, okay, you don't want to be on the main roster? Fine. We'll put you down in NXT and NXT UK. Now, no disrespect to Ashley, but who really watches UK? I don't. I watch UK. I mean, NXT, but UK really, I have no interest in me. As much interest I have is in 215 Live.
Yeah, but you got to look at it from a little different standpoint. The people and the talent in NXT, I feel, have more creative control over their character, and they're allowed to do more and develop their character more than they would be able to on, let's say, a Raw or a SmackDown. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I've always said that NXT, in my personal opinion, is the saving grace when it comes to WWE, because what they're doing on NXT is the kind of programming that I think all fans want to see on a Raw or a SmackDown. Seeing these characters, have like creative control. See them do these amazing moves, have these amazing movesets and these amazing characters, and yet when you move them up to Raw and SmackDown, they are just inhibited and limited so much. I mean, a great example of this is the Ascension. The Ascension were a long time reigning NXT tag team champions, considered to be one of the most dominant tag teams to come out of NXT. And what's happened to them since they've been on the main roster? They've become a joke. They've become a jobber tag team. And to me, it's just sad that WWE can't take what's working so well in NXT and apply that formula to Raw and SmackDown. Because if they were able to somehow, and this is just my personal opinion, Lance, if they were able to take the formula of success that NXT has been using for so long, and a lot of people are saying, well, it's not good. If you watch it, it's good. And I dare you, there have been 24 different NXT takeovers. I dare anyone out there to name a single bad takeover show, because I promise you, you cannot. Because every single takeover show has been absolutely brilliant and basically outshines the main roster. But back to what I was saying, Lance, I feel that if NXT can take that formula for success that makes NXT so good and apply it to the main roster, wouldn't you think that their ratings would be up, their stock would be up, and more people would be interested in what they're doing on a Raw and a SmackDown these days?
And this is kind of how I try to explain it. The main difference between main roster and NXT, main roster, okay, Vince, yes, okay, that's sports entertainment. NXT and UK and that's wrestling. People want to see wrestling, not this phony baloney bullshit.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
BS.
And speaking of that,
like,
go ahead.
They want to see the good stuff. They want to see the War Raiders, not the Viking experience.
Or the Viking Warriors, or the Viking Raiders, or the Minnesota Vikings, or...
I think, honestly, when they move... Regarding to the War Raiders, I think that, or the Viking, I think they would try to do the Viking Raiders. They would try to find that one name, and but either way, the characters so far to me has stuck. And real quick just on the thought is you have, I believe it's oh god, I can't
Eric and Ivar?
Rose. No, well, no, I was referring to the one of the girls in the faction who was a Viking, who was a true Viking, would be a part of that character.
Sarah Logan?
Gimmick. Sarah Logan, thank you. I couldn't get the name out of my head.
She's married to one of them.
Yeah, she's married to Eric.
Even better, But either way, like I said, I like that character. We very rarely have these two big tag teams, such as, like the old days. You had like wrestlers like Demolition, you had LOD, you had the Dudley Boys. They weren't huge, but they were still big. And that's some things that you need, but unfortunately, in today's wrestling, or especially the WWE, that's going to be hard for them to really fit into the fold. Well, so, time will tell again.
A couple of more stories come out of NXT this week. Apparently, Brock Lesnar now has a challenger for a match at WrestleMania 36. And it's the ultimate bro himself, Matt Riddle. Matt took to Twitter this past Wednesday, reacting to the reports of Brock Lesnar has notified the UFC that he is retiring. Riddle says it's a rumor that Lesnar is returning to WWE, and he said this on Twitter, I quote, "Rumor has it that the Beast is coming back to WWE, and the bro couldn't be happier. See you at WrestleMania 36. Now, read whatever you want into that, but it's basically, this is two MMA guys in a sense. Matt Riddle is a former MMA guy, and we all know what Brock Lesnar has done. The IWC seems to be so high on Brock Lesnar because he's, quote, legit and stuff like that. But I don't know if I want to see a Matt Riddle-Brock Lesnar match in WWE, Rick. I don't know how well that would translate, two MMA guys into WWE.
It would be a hot mess. Don't get me wrong, I'll give Matt Riddle credits. He is an incredible wrestler, but putting him in a match with somebody the size of Brock Lesnar, I don't think it would work. Again, Matt Riddle is still fairly new. He is on the rise, so I'm not knocking him on that. But by the time he gets up to, WWE, the main roster, Brock Lesnar's going to be like, who the fuck are you? It's that simple.
Lance, what are your thoughts?
Well, first, Rick, if they ever do book that for WrestleMania, remind me to get drunk before that match. And one thing he needs to forget, Matt Riddle needs to forget everything he learned at the Vince Russo School of Promo, bro.
Well, apparently that...
He's referring to all the bros.
Bro. I wonder what PewDiePie thinks about that.
Bro. Bro.
Well, apparently that's not the only piece of news to come out of NXT this week. And according to Jacob Cohen on Twitter, scoop number one, the newest member of the NXT commentary team, Beth Phoenix. And there's a picture of Beth standing there next to Mauro Ranallo and Nigel McGuinness, which would lead one to believe that she's possibly replacing Showtime Percy Watson. Now, are they getting an upgrade from Beth to Percy? I don't know, because the only time we've really heard Beth on commentary was during some of the Mae Young Classic, and it really wasn't on a consistent basis. And this would be like a real change for her, because you're calling more than just women's matches in NXT. You're going to be calling everyone's matches in NXT. And it's a big difference from, and again, I don't mean to come off sounding like offensive or anything like that, but it's a big difference between the Mae Young Classic and NXT. And NXT right now, and again, I hate to be a broken record, but that's the hot place in WWE right now. It is the place to be. If you're a huge wrestling fan and you want to see good quality programming, NXT is the best bet for you to see if you want to see that in WWE. If you want to basically see these guys truly shine and be who they are before they go up to the main roster and Vince McMahon just screws them up royally. And it's sad to hear that, but I don't know about you guys, you Rick and Lance, but I would kind of like to hear how Beth could actually progress not only as a commentator, but can she be a better commentator than Renee Young?
Well, let me speak real quick about Renee Young. Don't get me wrong. She definitely is a great host for, like the kickoff shows. I think she would even do great if she had her own daytime talk show. As a commentator, there's something that I don't think she has that strength to become a commentator. But then again, also, one of the biggest problems with commentary, at least in the WWE today, there's 3 of them. You need 2. You need the heel and you need the baby face. And even Corey Graves, he's all over the place. Woman, he's rooting for the heels. Next one, they're voting for the baby faces. And Michael Cole, well, he's Michael Cole. I like Corey Graves. I think if he really stuck to one pattern, he definitely has that commentating charisma. Michael Cole really needs to fucking retire. I'm sorry, I've tried not to swear a lot, but when it comes to Michael Cole, I'm just frustrating. I know I speak probably for the rest of us.
Tom Phillips isn't that bad of a commentator, in my personal opinions, and that's one of the reasons why one of the other reasons I enjoy watching SmackDown Live, because he's actually tolerable on commentary when it comes to being a play-by-play guy. Michael Cole, I don't know, I think he's just kind of worn out his welcome since 2012 when it comes to doing commentary in WWE. But
since he debuted.
Well,
since '98.
Yes and no. I think some of his early work was okay-ish. He definitely had a lot more excitement and more energy in his commentary when it came to doing that, but he just became like a melodrum robot or something like that, where he's like, oh boy, a clothesline. Oh, he's going to take him out. Vintage. And whoever told him that it was okay to basically take that word and make it the most hated word in the English language right now needs to be punched in the face. I'm sorry, but I don't know what else to say.
Here comes John Cena!
Yeah, exactly. He's way over the top. Even back in the days, Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan, by far to me, is the best commentator team. They really didn't go way over the top. Bobby the Brain Heenan, who's doing a few rib shots to either Monsoon or the crowd or even wrestlers. But Cole, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, it's just sometimes I have to hit the mute button because he's stating the obvious. He's shoving story down everybody's throats. Unfortunately, he has, pull on the back where he can pretty much say with a certain amount of things. He has this, he can color outside the line, so to speak. So again, that's all I really have to say about it when it comes to Michael Cole.
I mean, what else is there to say other than why? Why does WWE have stock in him? And sometimes I wonder if it's not really him. Sometimes I'm wondering if it's Vince McMahon in the gorilla position making all these shots, because when it comes to the main roster, Vince likes to have like basically 100% control on the matches that he books, control over the creative storyline, and of course control over the commentary. And it begs to wonder, if he's the one that's just basically saying, this is how we should do commentary, this is what you should say, this is what you should do. And me being a commentator, for those of you who are not aware, I have done independent commentary here in the state of Louisiana for the past 11 years. And when I say this, I am speaking from experience. And the experience that I have says that your commentary should be exciting. It should have energy. It should be able to verbally tell a story. And Tom Phillips can do that okay-ish when it comes to being a play-by-play commentator. Michael Cole has basically, well, let's just say his life, his his lifeboat left the dock a long time ago. And the best person who knows how to do that right now in WWE is Mauro Ranallo. Ranallo just has that Jim Ross-like quality to his commentary. He's very, I don't want to say well-versed in the English language, the movesets, the terminology, and he knows when, how, and where to bring the excitement into the commentary. And when you have that kind of thing in your commentary, to me, Rick, in my mind, that just makes when you're watching the match, that more exciting.
Well, I'll definitely have to agree with you when it comes to Mauro Ranallo. Great commentator. Unfortunately, he's being wasted, I think, down NXT and 205 Live.
No, Vic Hollywood. No, Vic Hollywood, the former play-by-play announcer for House of Hardcore. He's the one that's doing 205 Live. Mauro Ranallo is not doing 205 Live.
Okay, but anyways, my point though is, for some reason WWE doesn't want him in the main roster because I think honestly, he's intimidated, or the commentators are intimidated by him. Michael Cole, again. He couldn't hang with him, Mauro Ranallo. We know that he has anxiety issues, but he's even admitted to those depression problems. You took all those away, I think he would still be down there because that's just how WWE is, unfortunately, as a business. And every wrestling business, I don't care whether it's an indie or professional, they will step over anybody to get to the top, regardless of whether you like them or hate them. If you can move to the top and stepping over people to get there, so be it. And unfortunately, that's the mentality of wrestling we live in today.
I don't know, Lance. What's your take on the state of commentary in WWE right now?
Well, there's a reason HWR does live reaction, because the main roster people suck. And when it comes to the whole Mauro situation, so Michael Cole is pretty much, in Vince's eyes, John Cena when it comes to commentary. And I personally think that old Mr. Cole Cena, or whatever you want to call him, trying to keep probably the next JR down as he can, but I think we know who's going to eventually take Cole's spot.
As a quick,
I hope they
go ahead.
Just like Cole took JR's.
And as a quick reminder, ladies and gentlemen, the podcast is being streamed live on twitch.tv/stackup.org. StackUp is a charity organization dedicated to helping our great military veterans through the power of gaming. Be sure you visit stackup.org, that's .org, for more information. And be sure you check out more of the great live streamers here on the StackUp stream team, like my good buddy John, who's in the chat right now. John's at War, another great streamer here. I'm going to say right now, without a shadow of a doubt, and I'm probably going to get some slack for this from some of the other guys, but probably one of the best Beat Saber players on the Stack Up team. So that's a challenge to you out there, Shanghai. Let's just see if you're a little bit better than John Boy here. But anyway, guys, I want to apologize for the Studley Man actually not being here right now, because he was the one who was able to check out the Impact Wrestling pay-per-view that happened over the past week, and unfortunately I was not able to, because of the fact that, if you guys can't tell from my voice, I am still a little bit under the weather. I am still recovering from a head cold, so I'm trying to make the best of the situation I got right now. So I hope you guys can bear with me as we are talking about wrestling this week. And another thing to talk about, Rick, is the fact that Daniel Bryan has finally been cleared to wrestle. Daniel Bryan had an injury scare at WrestleMania. However, it's still unknown at this time as to what that injury was that he suffered. One might think it might have had something to do with his neck, because Daniel Bryan has been having neck issues. In fact, his neck was one of the reasons why he basically had to walk away for 2 years from the wrestling industry. But I think it's a piece of good news to hear that Daniel Bryan has been cleared.
Absolutely, and of course WWE wanted to keep that quiet. I mean, honestly, do we know 100%? No, we don't. But that, of course, that's easily speculated that he's had head and neck injuries in the past, which WWE kept him off for a couple of years. So they're keeping a heavy eye on him. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he missed time. But also, real quick, I want to talk about that. Who also has been missed a lot of time is Alexa Bliss. She has missed a lot of time due to concussions. And it was this past Monday where she announced that she will be in the Money in the Bank, Billy. I'm not sure, considering somebody who had so many injuries, should be going for that kind of high, powered match.
I think if they take it easy with her, with the time leading up into Money in the Bank, and they have her ready, physically, mentally, health wise, when it comes to that, I think they could do something good with her. I mean, she is a former Miss Money in the Bank, and if memory serves, she won it last year. So I'm fairly confident that they could do something, good with her. They can make sure that she doesn't get hurt and stuff like that. That's one thing that WWE tries to do well, and everyone in the wrestling industry tries to do well, is to make sure that your talent doesn't get hurt, while at the same time still being able to pull off an amazing match and make the things look really, really good to watch. And like I said, if they don't have her taking hard bumps and bumps off the ladder, if you guys are wondering, in wrestling lingo and wrestling talk, this is for a lot of the people on Stack Up, a bump is basically a move or taking a move like off of a ladder or off of the turnbuckles. Basically, when you take like a punch or a suplex or a body slam, in wrestling terminology, it's called taking a bump. And as long as we don't see her taking too many bumps, like with the ladder or off the ladder or onto the ladder, I think that they can have her, skate through this match relatively unharmed, in my opinion, Rick.
Again, we keep on saying bumps from a ladder. And again, ladder matches are not the easiest matches to work with. I mean, that might as well be a cage match or a Hell in a Cell match or what have you.
Battle
Exactly. So, again, we don't know whether she's 100% cleared or, they're saying, okay, we're going to keep an eye on you. If they're still concerned about keeping an eye on her, the last place she should be is in a Money in the Bank or any kind of ladder match for that matter. For all we know, she could be cleared, or maybe they just need a spot for her because they're not sure who else to put in there. And you know what? Yeah, we could easily see her get her, fake an injury, as we call it, where she's spending most of the time outside the ring. So I can see that possible.
WWE's put somebody that's fresh off an injury into a multi-person ladder match. Man, look at what they did. It was either for a Money in the Bank or the IC title. I can't quite remember what. No, it was the Intercontinental title. Daniel Bryan was coming back from the first concussion neck thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they put him right back in there, and he wound up having to get set out for 2 years.
Yeah, but if WWE didn't feel, if they weren't confident enough that they could put Alexa into this match and not have her come out hurt, and not, because you have to figure WWE has been taking their precautions, the medical precautions and safety precautions when it comes to their talent up to the next level with everything that's been happening year in and year out. And you got to figure, a lot of their standards have been raised significantly ever since the Daniel Bryan incident. And I personally feel that if WWE and their medical staff didn't feel that they were confident enough that they could have Alexa in this match and not have her come out like a Daniel Bryan and have to leave for some odd time, like, whether it be permanent or temporary or whatnot, then they probably wouldn't have her in the match. But be that as it may, they do have her in this match, which kind of leads me to believe that, they feel that they're confident in her and she's confident in them that they could put her in this match and not have her come out hurt.
Like I always say, time will tell. Hopefully, I mean, like I said, I don't disagree that WWE is very careful with their wrestlers, especially in today's industry, with all the head injuries and all the lawsuits. like I hope she does. She's a great wrestler, but I also hope she doesn't get hurt. So I guess we got to see what will be. And again, last thing I want to do is see any wrestler get hurt.
WWE is returning to Saudi Arabia. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's happening again. WWE has officially announced that they plan to return to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on June 7th. It was announced on this Monday morning that the event will be held at the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium. The only other information that has been released when it comes to the show is that 3 people have been advertised for this match. For this event, I apologize. Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, and Undertaker. Now, needless to say,
wait, did you say this is taking in? I just need to know what
It's going to be in.
I was wondering because
it's in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, on June 7th. It's going to be at the King Abdullah Sports City Stadium, and the 3.
Okay, now I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why haven't they added a butcher like Abdullah the Butcher in yet? Because he would fit right in there. It was just a question. Just a question out there.
Shiggy baby in there.
And again, the 3 stars advertised so far for this show are Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, and Undertaker. Now, needless to say, the last Saudi Arabia show was, well, I'm going to come out and say it. Crown Jewel sucked. It was a bad show. But however, for some reason, WWE felt, hey, let's go back to Saudi Arabia. One bad show over there wasn't enough. Let's go and have another bad show over in Saudi Arabia.
Can I clarify why they're doing this? And I know this is exactly the reason why. Because they signed a contract with the Saudi government that if Vince backs out, Saudi Arabia can buy the friggin' company.
Exactly. This is all about money. Saudi Arabia signed a multi-contract, as Lance just said, but it is huge money. I don't care whether the show sucked or whether it was a grand finale or better than WrestleMania, or even as low as WWE main event. So I don't care. They care about the money, whether people like it or don't like it. Again, when it comes to wrestling, it's a business. It's all about cash.
And sad to say that if that's all there is to it, and they don't care about the quality of their programming, then WWE doesn't have long left. Considering, if you look at the current ratings on Raw and SmackDown have been plummeting every week, and every week it gets lower and lower and lower. And when is Vince McMahon just going to take a look at this and see everything and see how his Raw and SmackDown ratings are just going into the toilet before he realizes, hey, I need to make a change to my product or else my product's not going to survive anymore?
Well, first and foremost, looking from that standpoint, who does WWE really have as a threat? Now, don't get me wrong, AEW has the potential, but so did Impact, and look where that went. So you have to consider.
Weird, but I can answer that.
But
who's going to watch who wrestling wise? Their competitions have and always have been, other than other wrestling companies, NFL, NBA, your Game of Thrones, your Sopranos. There's a lot of other stuff people want to watch other than wrestling, so they need to start thinking outside the box.
But again, you're talking about people who watch all these shows that may have never watched wrestling to begin with. And the vice versa. Now, again, wrestling fan, I never watched Game of Thrones. A lot of other stuff that makes big time money, I don't watch. So, but again, you have no real threat on a wrestling standard until some other company rises to the challenge and says, guess what? We're in your face. And guess what? We might be able to kick it. Until that day comes, WWE can do whatever the fuck they want. Now, he may lose far more viewers, but they're still putting asses in seats. At the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah, but there's going to be a time, though. There's going to be a time, though, when they're not going to be able to do that. If they don't make a change to their product soon, we're going to see that. Because not only will it be reflected in the ratings, but it's going to be reflected in the ticket purchases. There's going to be less and less people coming to the shows, buying the merch and stuff like that. And when it gets to that level, Vince, I feel it'll be probably too late for him to turn his product around. In my mind, they need to turn the product around now if they want to have any chance of actually surviving. Because AEW, when it comes, when All Elite Wrestling comes, and they're coming soon, they're going to be in my mind, a viable threat if they don't do something right now to turn that product around. Because as it stands right now, with the way the product is on Raw and SmackDown, sad to say, they would lose out to AEW. And we haven't even seen an AEW show right now. And more people right now, more conventional wrestling fans today, are putting more stock into AEW than they are into the main roster product on Raw and SmackDown. More people are looking forward to what they're doing with AEW than they're doing on Raw and SmackDown. In fact, more people are looking forward to Double or Nothing than Money in the Bank.
Well, again, I agree. I am looking forward to, Double or Nothing. I will pay full price to watch that show. I also watch, it was what they have a show, it's like Be the Elite or something like that. It's one of those kind of like reality shows.
Be the Elite.
Podcast.
Yeah, I think that's on. I think that's on Cody. Cody Rhodes has a YouTube channel, I believe, and I think he does it on there.
YouTube channel, yes. And I don't know if you guys have watched it, but a couple of times I watched it, was hilarious. Absolutely, I loved it. And they're great shows that shows you that they could say, fine, we can color outside the box, because right now we don't have a contract with ATV. So if we want to, keep our fans interested, that's what you have to do. You have to watch Be the Elite. And over on the HWO chat room, I post as much as possible. Just say, hey, yeah, these guys are moving. And don't get me wrong, I definitely want to see some fresh talent. Again, following real quick, AJ Styles even said on his podcast that, he goes, everybody over there are good friends of mine, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. You have some great talent over there, and I think they're going to kill it.
And like I said, if this current grade of product that Vince McMahon is putting out there for Raw and SmackDown does not change, then that's exactly what AEW is going to do to WWE. They're going to kill WWE. And to be honest, I don't want to see that happen. I've been if it wasn't for excuse me, like I said before, I'm a little bit under the weather today. I've been a fan of the World Wrestling Federation and WWF since 1986. I grew up in the golden era. The Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars was probably one of the hottest times ever to be a wrestling fan. Because you had the Monday Night Raws, you had the Monday Nitros, WWF versus WCW, going back and forth, and it was always a debate each and every week in my mind during the Monday Night Wars. Who am I going to watch this week? Am I going to watch WWF and Raw, or am I going to watch WCW and Nitro? And then we go up into the early 2000s. I really don't know how the reality era, I guess they're trying to call it, or the ruthless aggression era. I'm not sure. Everything
they fucking change names around all the time.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Everything leading up into there was good, and then McMahon just started losing the plot, and slowly things have started to circle down. And there is a glimmer of hope in my mind. There is a glimmer of hope with Triple H and NXT. And when Triple H finally assumes full creative control over the entire WWE product, only then can we see a real positive change to the product. Because
you forgot one other person. Stephanie McMahon, at the end of the day, she's the one who's got to be sitting in the seat. Triple H, don't get me wrong, when it comes to wrestling and his, mentality, absolutely, brilliant. A lot of people may think otherwise, but he is. But again, when you talk through all those years that WWE had issues with especially the Golden Era. Don't get me wrong, I love the Golden Era, but after a while, it started to kind of like get a little dry. And that's when, WCW stepped up and said, okay, we're in your face now. So again, WWE changed their motive, their criteria. They changed their whole image, and we had the Attitude Era. And the second they won, and they own Nitro, they had a small little storyline, and it fizzled out. And now they're just treading waters like they have for the past decade.
Damn near 2.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, again, guys, like I said, I do apologize for the Studley Man actually not being here. I have looked up the results of Impact Wrestling Rebellion, so that I can tell you just the results. I can't really give you a full-scale review because I was unable to watch the show. Here are the results. In the first match, Ace Austin defeated Aiden Prince, Jake Diener, Eddie Edwards, Jake Christ, and Petey Williams. Scarlett Bordeaux defeated Rohit Raju. I don't even know who that is. Moose, Ethan Page, and Josh Alexander defeated the Rascals. Again, I don't know who that is. Taya Valkyrie defeated Jordan Grace to retain the Impact Knockouts Championship. Rich Swann defeated Sami Callihan to retain the X Division Championship. Tessa Blanchard defeated Gail Kim. Brian Cage, the Machine, defeated Johnny Impact. And that's another story in itself. Brian Cage defeated Johnny Impact to become the new Impact Heavyweight Champion. However, there have been dozens and dozens of reports going out there, Rick, that's saying that Brian Cage got injured in this match. But and as far as I know, the last time I checked, there's been no new update when it comes to the medical condition of Brian Cage.
I did read that article and the rumors. From what they said, they weren't sure how serious it was. They don't think they really needed any surgery. I think it was just kind of like a bruised bone, take some time off, and that's going to be it. So I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I don't know the man from, only by name. I haven't really watched Impact over the past couple of months. I'm just completely disenfranchised from that brand. But again, it's clearly he's made it clear, and of course all the rumors made it clear that he's going to be back.
And in the final match, it was LAX defeating the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix, to capture the Impact Tag Team Championship. So again, that is just the results of it. Again, I cannot give you guys a full review of Rebellion because I have been sick and I was unable to watch the show. But one show I did watch was Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. Let's start with Monday Night Raw. Raw opened up with Alexa Bliss with a moment of bliss as she announced the 4 men from Raw participating in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, as it was Ricochet, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, and last year's winner, a.k.a. Mr. Monster in the Bank, Braun Strowman. After they each cut a promo stating why they were going to win, Strowman would throw down a challenge for a tag match, which would end up being the opening match this week, as it was Ricochet and Strowman taking on Corbin and McIntyre. Now, for the most part, it was Corbin and McIntyre in control of the match, demonstrating their past chemistry as a tag team as compared to Ricochet and Strowman tagging up for the very first time. Now, despite Corbin and McIntyre being a more experienced team, the finish of the match came down to Strowman first hitting the power slam on Corbin, which set up Ricochet hitting a shooting star press on Corbin to pick up the win for their team. Needless to say, Rick, wherever Baron Corbin goes, the crowd just really hates his guts.
Well, I mean, obviously they've been building that up, but what I cannot figure out for the life of me is why is this guy still walking around in slacks and a dress-up in a button-down shirt with a vest? I'm sorry, he could have come across with any other character, and I understand why he was a GM. He did it. I understand for a couple of weeks after that, maybe a couple of months after that, but it's been, I don't know how long, so he really needs to change up a little bit. He can keep the same character, or maybe he gets his ass kicked one time, and then he realizes, okay, you know what, time for a change, and come up to be like this really pissed off person back to where he was, where he just didn't give a shit about anybody. Now he's smiling, and I'm sorry, he looks like a dork.
I know, but isn't he? But isn't he really playing up the part of what a heel is supposed to do, and what a heel in wrestling is supposed to do is get the crowd to hate their guts? I think he's really pulling it off well.
I'm not questioning his character or how he's pissing off the fans. Obviously, yes, he's doing a great job. But for me, to have that, I'm a badass, looking like, dressed down, like a nice guy, like some kind of like dork or some, asshole who went, ballistic at a cubicle to find out he's getting fired. That to me doesn't really stand up to the character. Yes, people are hating him. Now, I could look at somebody else and say, with Aleister Black, he sits down all the time and he has that nice black suit, but it's also not how he comes down. He comes down and he's in a leather jacket. He's there for business, and he's there to kick ass, and that's where it works. If you're gonna have that kind of a gimmick or that dress like that, when you go down that ring, you better have a different persona, a different look. It's that simple.
And speaking of different looks, we will talk about what Aleister Black's promo when we get to SmackDown Live. Up next, it was the Usos taking on Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. First, it was promo during this match that the Usos had something to show us that no one has ever seen. And second, Gallows and Anderson are now back on Raw, as well as AJ Styles. So it does stand to reason that WWE could, emphasis on could, put the club back together. I'm not saying that they're going to do it with 100% certainty, but I am just saying the option is there for them. Do I wish that they could do more with Gallows and Anderson? Of course. But it's kind of sad that they don't know what to do with them right now. I did like the fact that the match wasn't a complete squash, because it did make both teams look good. But then again, that's a matter of personal opinion. The finish of the match was Jimmy Uso hitting the Samoan Splash on Luke Gallows to pick up the win. After the match, however, is where I'm scratching my head, Rick and Lance. They showed video footage of Dash Wilder shaving the back of Scott Dawson. And from some of the reports I've read, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but some of the people are saying that this is WWE's response to, I believe, Revival getting an offer from AEW that they turned down.
Well, I can't confirm about the AEW, but there were several reports saying they just weren't happy in the status of the company. They wanted it out. So WWE said, okay, you know what? Well, we're going to make you happy. We're going to make you tag titles for, 2 or 3 weeks, if that. And so far, they've been squashed. Now they're looking like they're making them look, like I don't know. I mean, yeah, it was a funny spot.
Do you remember Billy and Chuck? The tag team, Billy Gunn and Chuck.
Oh, exactly my point. You made a point for me. They're making them look, they're trying to humiliate them. You know that word. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can't speak right. Thank you. And so I don't think it's doing them any favors. Yeah, it's gonna be funny, and that's how they gotta come across for the next few, whatever their contract is up or until they come to terms. They're gonna have these guys look foolish. It's like, I think actually, I don't know why WWE just doesn't let them go. I don't know why this company is so afraid to letting talent go. This is
Rick, I've got 3 letters for you. WCW.
You know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. And I can understand why WWE harvests as much talent as they possibly can. Because, again, they're afraid of other companies rising to the challenge. But, again, how many times have we said this? AEW has potential, but they're not there yet. They can stumble and fall halfway along the line. So, and I believe, Gail Kim even said this in an interview. She's like, if WWE is not happy with the talent, and the talent's not happy with the talent, why are you keeping them? What is the reason? If focus on at the talent that you have, or that potentially you would like to push up. If there's people you just don't want in and there's other people want out, cut the fucking cord. Why keep them?
By the way, for those of you who are here in the Twitch chat, if you guys have any comments or anything you'd like to ask or anything you would like to say in response to anything that's been said here in the podcast, please put it in the chat room and I will read it out loud for the sake of not only the VOD here, but also for the video that will be going up on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. Lance, do you have something else to add?
No, not really.
Okay. But anyway, also Twisted Days is in the chat. Days, how you doing? He was on the show last week. He said they have been bad with talent and haven't had competition in years. Yeah, that's exactly the point I was making earlier. That if WWE really doesn't have the competition, doesn't have like their next, I hate to say it, their next WCW, their next big rival, the next big company that could really, test them and push them to the limit, then the product is just going to continually degrade. And it does stand to reason that we might see a change in that when AEW starts rolling around on the Turner networks within the next few months. I'm not sure. I don't have an exact date on me right now, but one would think when AEW starts rising to the surface and there's a lot of attention, a lot of focus on All Elite. And as far as I know, they've only had one show, which I believe was Double or Nothing. And I'm doing okay, Days. Days is asked, good. You're doing better today? Yes, I am. I'm slightly less congested than I was yesterday, but I still have a little bit of it, as you can tell by my voice. But there's been so much media attention on AEW, and they really had only one show to think of, which is Double or Nothing. And then there have been reports after reports of, when the tickets first went on sale online for All In, that the website crashed multiple times because of so many people overloading the servers. There's a lot of people putting some stock into AEW. And when AEW comes out, I personally believe it'll be a major threat for WWE if Vince doesn't take his head out of his butt and realizes that his product needs to change. But that is... go ahead, Rick.
Well, again, like I said, it seems like we're running around in circles on the same concept. And like I said, AEW has potential. As far if they move to Turner, okay, that's not a bad idea. Do they need to go live? That's definitely one of the mistakes that TNA/Impact Wrestling made. They did not go live.
And that wasn't the only mistake they made, but the thing is, they advertised that not only would they be live on the Monday nights, but their show would still be running on Thursdays. Why watch the product on Monday if they're still going to be showing the exact same thing on Thursdays?
I'm guessing there was some kind of contract, but even still, though, again, that was another mistake they made. They tried to go head-to-head with WWE, and it didn't work. And again, that was Hulk Hogan's fault, because Hulk Hogan was the one who made the suggestion.
They got rid of the six-sided ring, which made them different.
Exactly. Again, there's a lot of different things that added up. So, in short, for AEW to at least get their head going, they need to work on a night where any of the WWE main shows are, of course, I'm referring to Raw and SmackDown, maybe somewhere maybe on Thursdays, or maybe even go back to original tactics and do maybe like Saturday afternoon. That's something that has not been done in almost 3 decades. How do you think that would work, Billy?
To me, it would give me a vibe of WCW Saturday Night. That's the kind of vibe it would give me.
Exactly.
And you
go back to a little bit retro.
Yeah. We got to go old school retro. WCW at 6:05, not 6 o'clock on the dot. 6:05 p.m. And that's how Turner always did his programs. It wasn't always on the hour. It was always 5 minutes after the hour. And I think that's kind of one of the things that they were trying to do to set them apart from anything else they ever did. I just kind of wish that Turner... I'm just hoping that Turner doesn't make the same mistake. Well, Turner really doesn't have too much invested in AEW. In fact, from what I've heard, it's Cody and AEW who are paying Turner to be on their network instead of the other way around of Turner paying AEW for them to be on their network. So I'm just hoping that everything does turn out all right with AEW and what they're doing. And again, we said this multiple times this week on the podcast, only time will tell. But speaking of that, we need to get back to Monday Night Raw. And Rick, I don't know, how much time do you have left that you can be here on the podcast? You've been here for an hour at least.
To define Raw in short, it sucked. The whole show, there was maybe one good show that I even, again, if you mention, I might be able to say it was. And then, of course, there was the Firefly, which you saw SmackDown, which is even more horrible. These 2 nights, Raw and SmackDown, spent more time doing promos, doing reruns, and everything else, and had 3 matches. 2 of them were squashes, and the other one was like, eh. You know, SmackDown, they had even more, and I think there was 2, maybe 3 3 matches. You know, it was just, I think one of the matches lasts like 5 or 6 minutes.
And you know what? I'll address that point when I get to the end of my SmackDown review, because you brought up an interesting point. I thought about that, and I do have something to say about that, but I'll say it after the SmackDown review, if that's okay.
All right. Well, actually, you know what? It's unfortunately I do have to tap out of here, and you have to go get ready. Get me, and we're going out to dinner. So, Billy, I thank you for being on your show, and it's always a pleasure. All
right.
And of course, Lance. You know,
Rick.
I love hanging out with you. We'll see you Friday night. And that's on Four Corner Rants.
Yep. And again, guys, that's at facebook.com/groups/HWR chat room. Days in the chat room on Twitch says they need to replace the writers and actually get some wrestling minds more involved.
Hell yes.
You'll get no argument from us when it comes to that one. But for now, let's get back to Monday Night Raw, because up next, it was the return of Miz TV to Monday Night Raw, as Miz's first guest was Bobby Lashley, who came out without Lio Rush to talk for him in this segment. There have been a lot of reports about Lio Rush, having this really inflated ego backstage, and he's been getting heat with a lot of people. And I think right now WWE is kind of saying, you know what, we're tapping you on the hand, we're going to give you a slap on the hand, and you're going to be staying off of TV for a little while, and we'll see how big your head is when it comes to that. Now, in this promo, Lashley talked in the third person like he was The Rock. Now, I am no Rock fan, to say the very least. But Bobby Lashley is no Rock when it comes to cutting a promo. It was bad. I don't know who told Lashley or who even gave Vince the idea to say, hey, Lashley, we want you to go out there and we want you to talk in the third person. It was just so dry. It was robotic. The delivery was terrible. I don't know what they were thinking. And that's one of the reasons why I feel that they need Lio Rush with Bobby Lashley right now, Lance. At least Lio Rush can talk for Lashley, and Lashley kind of demonstrated in this promo that he can't.
Yeah, Billy, you're absolutely right, but probably the same guy that told Vince that it would be a good idea to break up or let Bobby Lashley do a promo is probably the same guy that thought it would be a good idea to bring Bobby Lashley back to the company and give him a gimmick where he slaps his own ass.
I think the main reason why they brought Lashley back is they saw the work he was doing in Impact Wrestling, even though they'll never admit it themselves. And I will say this. Lashley's heel work in TNA, vastly superior to what he's doing in WWE right now. The Destroyer, Bobby Lashley, to me, was a credible gimmick for Lashley. He made it work. Bring him over to WWE, and right now it's just been a miserable fail. And that's not Lashley's fault. I'm not blaming Lashley for that whatsoever. I'm blaming WWE creative or lack thereof. Because Lashley was good in TNA. Nobody's going to dispute that. Nobody's going to look at the Destroyer, Bobby Lashley, in TNA and say, oh, this was a bad gimmick. This guy was terrible. No. If Impact Wrestling thought the Destroyer gimmick was bad, then he would have been a multiple-time champion. He would have been in the company as long as he has. And he was, at one time, one of the main faces of Impact Wrestling. When you thought Impact Wrestling, one of the first few names that come to mind was Bobby Lashley. Because of the stuff he was doing as the Destroyer. Go ahead.
Because what did they have? Seeing Broken Matt was about it.
No, yeah. But his heel work, though, in TNA was, like I said, vastly superior to what he's doing on WWE right now. I mean, I'm waiting for the day for when WWE opens their eyes and saying, okay, let's unleash the Destroyer in WWE. I am waiting for that day, and I want to see that day. I want to see what they do with the Destroyer in WWE. Not this Bobby Lashley bending over, showing his rear end thing gimmick or whatever they're doing, where now Bobby Lashley's talking in the third person, or the almighty Bobby Lashley. I want to see the Destroyer Bobby Lashley in WWE. I want to see this guy who was feared, he was intimidating to be in the ring with. The almighty Bobby Lashley is just like, this guy's a joke. Plain and simple, this guy's a joke. But anyway, back to...
Are you forgetting what Vince does to other companies' talent?
Flushes them down the toilet.
I mean, look what he did to probably the most violent tag team to ever be on the territory scene, the Sheep Herders. He turned them into dancing goofballs called the Bushwhackers.
But here's the thing, though. He made it work. They're in the Hall of Fame for a reason. They were considered one of the most popular tag teams in the Golden Era for a reason. It got over. At that time, it worked. What Vince is doing right now, what Vince is doing right now, with not just Bobby Lashley, but with a great many people in the company right now, it's not working.
Yeah, and another example of what he does. Rooster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My point exactly.
For those of you who don't know what Lance is talking about, Terry Taylor, at one point in his World Wrestling Federation career, he had a gimmick where he was known as a Red Rooster, where he actually had some of his hair spiked up and dyed red, and he almost walked around, well, he did kind of walk around a little bit like he was a chicken during some of his matches, like he was an actual rooster. Again, guys, you got to think about this. At this time, this was during the golden era in the 1980s, where they were focusing more on larger-than-life characters more than anything. And I guess Vince appealed to the Red Rooster gimmick as being a character more than anything, instead of just trying to have a good wrestling product. But anyway, let's get back to Monday Night Raw. And I know that's sad to hear, but anyway, the segment went in the direction of Lashley insulting Miz's father, which apparently right now is a quick way to, 1, get heat from the crowd as a heel, and 2, put Miz over as the face. This led to a match being made between the two of them, and when it looked like things were going Miz's way in the match, out would come Shane McMahon, who showed pics of Miz's father on the Tron, which distracted Miz, allowing Lashley to hit the spear on him to pick up the win. After the match was over, Shane would lock a figure 4 headlock and choked out the Miz. Later on the evening, in a backstage promo, Miz would throw down a challenge to McMahon for a steel cage match, to which he agreed to on Twitter. Now, seeing what we saw in the Falls Count Anywhere match, at WrestleMania is any indication of what we could see in the steel cage match, I got to say, if anything, this is one match for Money in the Bank, Lance, that I'm actually looking forward to.
Yeah, is it weird that I'm kind of predicting them doing like a suplex off the top of that steel cage?
Either that or Shane McMahon doing an insane leap off the cage. I mean, he's leapt off. He leapt off the Hell in a Cell a few years ago at WrestleMania when he was taking on The Undertaker.
Yeah, that damn near killed him.
Yeah, so I would put it past him to see him do a leap off the steel cage. But anyway, up next, it was the War Raiders. I'm sorry, I mean the Viking Experience. I mean the Viking Raiders taking on the Lucha House Party. However, the Luchas would get the jump on Eric and Ivar before the match got started, but it was really all for naught as the Raiders just proved to be too much for them, as the finish of the match was the Raiders hitting the Viking Experience, the pop-up power slam on Kalisto to pick up the win. After the match, I got to say what really caught everyone's eye, Lance, and I know it probably caught your eye too, which was Ivar demonstrating his amazing athletic ability as the Raiders connected with a springboard clothesline back suplex combo on Metalik. A man that size, Lance, shouldn't be able to move like that.
I mean, every once in a while you'll get a guy that big that can do that. I mean, I'm remembering back in the old ECW days, big ass Mike Awesome or flying in the air like a daggone cruiserweight.
I remember that too.
Yeah.
Bam Bam Bigelow could also be another good example because of some of the things he did. Big Van Vader as well, the late great Big Van Vader. So there have been a lot of athletic big men, and I gotta say, I gotta put Ivar of the War Raiders, or Viking Raiders, I'm sorry, that one was actually accidental, up there with him, because some of the things he does for a guy his size is just absolutely amazing, absolutely astounding, to say the least. We would have yet another moment of bliss as Alexa would then announce the 4 women from Raw participating in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, as it was Dana Brooke, Naomi, Natalya, and the goddess herself, Alexa. Naomi would then throw down a challenge to the former Raw Women's Champion, to which she agreed to, even though she wasn't dressed to compete, i.e. she wasn't in her ring gear for this match. Multiple times during this match, Alexa had to stop to tie her shoes, which was a major distraction for her and would end up being her downfall. Naomi somehow yanked Alexa's shoes off, and when Alexa would go to put them back on, Naomi would hit the rear view, followed up with a split-legged moonsault to pick up the win. And one thing I did notice, Lance, I don't know if you caught this, but this is one thing I picked up on for sure, was a smattering of boos coming from the crowd during this match.
Yeah. These two just don't work well together.
Becky Lynch. What can we say right now about Becky Lynch? She is uber over on the crowd. Becky 2 belts. And apparently she could do no wrong in the eyes of 95% of the WWE universe. She could go out there, smack a baby in the face, and they would still cheer for her. That's how over Becky is right now. Now, do I hate Becky Lynch? No. And for what she's done and the way she's owned her gimmick and she's working her gimmick, I think she's done it quite well. Now, am I going to get on my hands and knees and worship the ground that she walks on? No. But if I ever did meet her face to face, I'd shake her hand and tell her that she's doing an amazing job in WWE with her character. Now, she was asked why she wanted to defend both championships at Money in the Bank. For those of you who don't know, Becky will be defending the Raw Women's Championship against Lacey Evans at Money in the Bank, and she will also be defending the SmackDown Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair in the same night. Now, she was asked why she wanted to defend both championships at Money in the Bank, to which she responded that she wasn't going to hold championships hostage like Charlotte Flair did, even though it puts her at a big disadvantage, but she was still going to come out on top. Then out would come the sassy Southern Belle, Lacey Evans, which sparked a major brawl between the two. And after they were separated, it appeared that Evans had either a bloody nose or got knocked in the nose during the brawl. But Lance, as far as I know, that's all I know when it comes to that.
I heard after the, now this could just be BS, but I heard after the brawl, when they were breaking her up, Becky told Lacey to go make her a sandwich.
I wonder if she actually made a good sandwich. Up next was Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder.
Women like that, probably not.
It was Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder taking on the freshly shaved Revival. Try to get that image out of your head. Is it just me? Or does Hawkins and Ryder have a B-team-like feeling to their Raw Tag Team Championship run right now? They're pulling off wins just...
But okay.
Well, they're still pulling off wins just like they did when they had their title run, and would pull off yet another win as Ryder would pull off a crucifix pin on Scott Dawson to pick up the win. And I might be comparing apples and oranges when it comes to this, but the way it's just the feeling that I have right now, Lance, of what they're doing with Hawkins and Ryder. They're like the underdog team, which was kind of where Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel were once upon a time before they kind of adopted the B team gimmick and they won the Raw Tag Team Championship. They were the underdog tag team. Nobody was giving them a second look or even giving them a chance. And now look at Hawkins and Ryder now. They are the current tag team champions.
Yeah, I mean, when Creative dogged both these guys out so bad, they should have filed lawsuits, and now they're doing a chance or choice but to be the underdog tag team.
And like I said, for the guys, just a quick reminder that this podcast is also being shown live on twitch.tv/stackup.org, and StackUp is a charity organization dedicated to helping our great military veterans through the power of gaming. If you guys want to find out more information on StackUp, be sure you visit stackup.org to find out all you can and donate to this great charity known as StackUp. Once again, Sami Zayn came out and once again berated the crowd for being critics, which is kind of what we're doing, but not to the degree that Zayn is saying in his promos. Now, this is the third week in a row where they have Zayn just go out there and go on a verbal tangent and berate the crowd, almost in the fashion that the new Daniel Bryan was doing earlier in the year during his latest WWE Championship run. Zayn would taunt the crowd with the comments of him quitting. However, he said it would bring him more joy to come out each and every week to hold them accountable. Time to Google search the word hypocrite. But the question to ask now, Lance, is how long are they going to do this with Zayn before the fans just get tired of the same thing over and over again?
Well, this is actually one of your bare bones basic heel tactics. It's from Memphis. It's an old Memphis tactic. You just beat down the crowd until somebody, I don't know who they're going to pick now, but somebody's just going to get pissed off and basically knock him back into thinking he's El Generico.
Ooh. It could happen. It could happen. And don't forget, guys, if you are here on the Twitch stream right now on stackup.org, put your comments, any comments you have, in the chat room, and I will read them out loud for the sake of the VOD and the video that will be going up on YouTube. Up next, it was Samoa Joe taking on Rey Mysterio. Mysterio had a lot to make up for, considering his embarrassing loss to the United States champion at WrestleMania in less than a minute or so. Now, this match went far longer than the one from WrestleMania, so that told me right there that, one, for sure that Mysterio was healed up, or at least in a much better condition, because if I remember correctly, Mysterio went into his WrestleMania match with an injured ankle, and I really didn't see any signs of that during this match. Mysterio would attempt the 619 multiple times during this match, but Joe was able to counter them. However, Ray would catch him in a schoolboy roll-up to pick up the win in this non-title match. However, there were several different angles that made it appear that Joe's hands were underneath the rope, so they may play that into their angle, and one could assume that with Mysterio picking up a win in a non-title match, Lance, that it could set up a championship match for them at Money in the Bank.
Now, that has a legit case for a U.S. title shot right now, and well, since we're 2 weeks away roughly from Money in the Bank,
Roughly.
boy,
It could happen. It could happen. And speaking of championship matches, the contract signing for the Universal Championship at Money in the Bank was the main event segment of Raw this week. Both AJ Styles and Seth Rollins would cut a promo, first putting each other over before putting themselves over. After that, they both signed the contract. It would go as most typical contract signings in the WWE go, with a physical confrontation. At first, it was Rollins getting the better of Styles and would send him to the outside. However, the Phenomenal One would get the better of the Universal Champion by connecting with a phenomenal forearm to Rollins, which sent him through the table in the ring to end Monday Night Raw. I gotta say, one, we all kind of saw this coming, Lance, that we were going to see a physical confrontation, but were you expecting them to go to the degree that they did?
yeah, because I mean, there's an old saying. In wrestling, there's two things that never go as planned: contract signings and weddings.
Ooh. Raw this week was okay. Not a 5-star quality show, but it was okay. Overall score of Raw this week gets a 2.75 out of 5, with best match of the night going to Samoa Joe taking on Rey Mysterio, with weirdest segment of the night going to episode 2 of the Firefly Funhouse. Remember, boys and girls, the word of the day is sociopath. That's SOCIOPATH. Sociopath. Lance, what's your overall score and thoughts on Raw this week?
Yeah, I'll give it a 2.5. And best match, and I gotta agree with you on Ray and Joe. And yeah, Bray with that weird ass thing he's doing, that's the weirdest.
Mm-hmm. So, Raw basically is at a 2.75 out of 5 this week. How would SmackDown measure up to Monday Night Raw? Well, let's talk about it. SmackDown Live would open up with the new WWE Champion Kofi Kingston and about 5 to 10 minutes of clips of Kofi's road to WrestleMania and his WWE Championship win, and eventually leading up to the Kevin Owens betrayal from last week. Kofi would then throw out a challenge to the prize fighter for a WWE Championship match at Money in the Bank, and it wouldn't take long for Owens to come out and accept the challenge. However, from behind, out would come Xavier Woods to get a measure of revenge from last week, but it would fall a little short of accomplishing that after eating a super kick from Owens. And I have to say right now, given last week's turn and how well it was executed, because it was done at the right moment, at the right time, Kevin Owens right now, with Money in the Bank coming up, is right now the guy to go after Kofi Kingston in the WWE Championship right now, Lance.
Yeah. Now, granted, Ray Charles just saw that double cross coming from a mile away, but yeah, it's looking like the guy they're going with is Kevin Owens.
Yep, and there's been a saying on my channel on YouTube and on Twitch that when wrestling becomes predictable, it becomes boring. However, there is an exception to the rule, and that is if the execution is there, if it's done perfectly and if the timing is there, then it's still pulled off as a good turn. Now, was Kevin Owens' turn predictable? Yes. However, was it performed perfectly? Was it done at the right moment, at the right time? Yes. So I believe that kind of trumps the predictability factor of it. Now, up next, it was Becky Lynch taking on Bayley. Now, last week when it came to the women's matches on Raw and SmackDown, they barely went over a minute. I want to say on Raw, it was 70 seconds. On SmackDown, it was 90 seconds. Something like that. This, however, was not one of those matches as they actually gave Lynch and Bayley time to work the match and put on, in my mind, a pretty decent match for SmackDown Live standards. Bayley would attempt to put the double champion away with the flying elbow, but Lynch would counter with getting her knees up and then locked on the disarmer to pick up the win. Then out would come Charlotte Flair. They look bigger, even bigger this week. I'll leave that up to everyone's imagination. And would take out both Lynch and Bayley, leaving them laying on the outside of the ring. Lance, one of the things I've said on the channel for the longest time, that if you give your female talent enough time to work a great match, you're going to get a great match. And they gave, in my mind, Becky and Bayley enough time to put on a really good match.
Quit injecting Charlotte into every damn women's match.
Yeah, Days in the chat room says, LOL, they got bigger. Days knows what I'm talking about, and I'm pretty sure Lance knows what I'm talking about, too. However, we get a bit of sad news in the next segment, because apparently Jeff Hardy suffered some sort of knee injury, which requires surgery to correct, which means that the Hardy Boys have to vacate the SmackDown Live Tag Team Championship. And as soon as they made that announcement, out would come Lars Sullivan, who destroyed Matt Hardy once again. But before he could do any damage to the already injured Jeff, R-Truth came out of nowhere, struck Sullivan with a steel chair, which had no effect on the Freak whatsoever, and would once again Sullivan would leave R-Truth laying after a leaping sit-out powerbomb. And again, the Goldberg question comes to mind here, Lance. Who's next?
That's a good question, but I kind of see those two guys as probably a kickoff match for Money in the Bank.
And what are your thoughts about
Has he had a match yet?
Not really. Sullivan has officially not had a match on the main roster, but what are your thoughts about the Jeff Hardy situation?
Well, I mean, now granted, Jeff is known for doing some psycho stunts, and he ain't getting any younger. He's either 39 or 40. As we know,
I think he's up there in the 40s. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, as part of how it's even a part of wrestling, you know, the surgeries are a part of it. So, Jeff, I hope it's just a scoping or something, so you can be back really quick.
No, one of the
in an era of
go ahead.
high fire and stuff. Hey, we need the charismatic Enigma.
Now, speaking of new characters being in development, for the second week in a row, we would see a glimpse into a different side of Aleister Black, so to speak. It was just him sitting there in the dark talking about fear and whatnot, and it was kind of giving off a different kind of a vibe than what we're kind of used to seeing with Aleister Black. And I have to say, I'm really interested. I really want to see where they go next with him, because this is really kind of like a mixed bag of what Aleister Black has already done in NXT. What a combination of what. Do you remember the Sean O'Hare gimmick? You know, where he would like cut a promo saying, I'm not telling you something you don't already know. You know, where it's just like kind of creepy and stuff like that. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting with Aleister in this new thing. You know, he's sitting there like in a dark suit talking about what men to fear, and eventually everyone will fade to black.
Well, from what I understand, they're going to go kind of a dark satanic kind of thing. Talk more actual satanic and less Mordecai. So, some more darker, scarier people that aren't Boogeyman. Prey than Boogie, if you get what I'm saying.
Up next, it was the Empress, Asuka, and the Pirate Princess Kairi Sane defeating two local jobbers, aka Talent Enhancement. It's Asuka and Kairi Sane. The two women you see on the screen here, I want to see them as women's tag team champions in the near future. The Iconics were on commentary, but I didn't really care for it, because I cared more about watching Asuka and Kairi in the ring. Am I biased? Yes. Do I care? No.
Did he have the Jergens out? Yes.
Am I going to admit that on stream? No.
He just? Yes.
Am I going to punch Lance? Yes. Roman Reigns would come out next and said that he wanted to make a statement on SmackDown Live to show everyone that it was still his yard, and he did that by punching Vince McMahon. And soon after, Shane would come out to make the statement that he left Reigns laying in the ring last week along with Elias, as Reigns would mention, which would lead to Shane making a handicap match with Reigns taking on the B team, who are apparently heel now for no other reason other than by association with Shane, and Elias would be the special guest ring enforcer. And it would play out as expected, with the odds being against Reigns at almost every turn, making it nearly impossible for the big dog to ink out a win in this scenario. At one point, the in-ring official was knocked out, and Elias told Axel to hold Reigns as he was going to hit him with the guitar, but Reigns would counter with a Superman punch to Elias, and then hit a spear on Axel to pick up the win. And I don't know, when I saw this scenario, this match, this angle right here, Lance, just building up, you have to figure they're just doing this to put Reigns over more and more, you know?
Have figured out what they were treating him for leukemia with.
That's
Would be peanut juice.
Well, the rest of the men's Money in the Bank ladder match were announced. For the SmackDown side, it was Finn Balor, Ali, Randy Orton, and Andrade. And for the women's side, let me get that information up. For the women's side on SmackDown, for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match from SmackDown Live, it's Bayley, it is Carmella, it's Mandy Rose, and Ember Moon. So that pretty much rounds out both the men and the women's Money in the Bank ladder match for this year. So interesting to see what they do here and where they go with it. But anyway, just like with on Monday Night Raw, they had a tag match featuring the four men. On the SmackDown side, pardon me for just 1 minute, I am getting a phone call at the worst possible time. Give me just 1 second, guys. I'm going to mute my microphone.
I know you're not muted.
Okay, guys, I do apologize about that short interruption here with that phone call. I do apologize about that. But very quickly, let me see where I left off here. The tag team match. As expected, considering it was Finn Balor and Ali taking on Randy Orton and Andrade, it was a great match all around, considering the talent involved in the match. But the finish would come down to Ali hitting a 450 splash on Andrade to pick up the win. I would like to know personally what was wrong with the 054, the inverted 450, which was Ali's original signature. I'm not complaining about it, but that's something I picked up on, is that he's not doing that anymore as his signature. He's doing the 450, the traditional splash, instead of the 054. Orton would hit an RKO on Finn after the fact. However, Ali would quickly dispatch of the Apex Predator as he eyed the men's Money in the Bank briefcase. And like I said earlier, Lance, you got great talent in the ring like Balor, Ali, Orton, and Andrade. You're going to get a good match.
I actually, during this match, I was just looking at that lovely Latina at ringside, Miss Zelina.
The Kevin Owens show would be the main event segment of SmackDown this week, as he promised to interview Xavier Woods. The swerve would be that it was an action figure of Woods and the other members of the New Day. It wouldn't take long, though, for Kofi Kingston to come out to get a piece of his challenger. However, Owens would then gouge Kofi in the eyes and would escape in the crowd to end SmackDown Live. So one had to figure, with them heavily promoting that Kevin Owens was going to interview Xavier Woods after everything that's transpired, not only last week between them, but what happened earlier in the night at the end of the opening segment, that there was going to be some sort of swerve. You know what I mean, Lance?
Mm-hmm. But to be fair, as soon as I saw the main event was the KO show, I knew exactly where it was going, roughly. So I just changed the channel. Oh, it's just a BS thing to do that. It's like,
SmackDown has consistently been the better show of the main rosters. They give their matches and segments the time to do what they need to do, which makes for a good show. You can't tell a good match, a good story for a match, in less than 5 minutes. You can't build up a good main event or set up a good match if you do a promo that's less than 2 minutes. If you give the people the time they need to not only execute the matches that they need to do and tell the story that they need to do, but if you give them the time to set up the promos, to tell the story, which leads into the match, it makes for a better overall quality show, in my personal opinion. Overall score for SmackDown Live this week gets a 3 out of 5, with best match of the night going to Asuka and Kairi Sane, squashing the Jobbers for reasons I have already stated. With this tag match, everyone get off my back. I'm going to love our Asuka and Kairi Sane no matter what. With the tag match with Ali and Balor taking on Andrade and Orton, a very, very close second. Lance, what are your thoughts?
Now, I'm gonna say the men's Money in the Bank match, probably best match, and we all know where you want Kairi Sane and to climb on.
We're not gonna go that far on the podcast, because I don't want to get in trouble with Stack Up, for one. Now, guys, my personal apologies. I was unable to watch 205 Live or NXT this past week, so I'll just quickly run through the results of the show for both shows for everyone. We're going to start with 205 Live here, as I am getting the results pulled up here on WWE.com. Let's see the results. And again, I hope to catch up with all of my programs when it comes to next week's show. The quick results: Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado defeated the Singh brothers. Mike Kanellis attacked the Brian Kendrick for some reason. And Tony Nese defeated Drew Gulak. Nese and Gulak were once upon a time a tag team and even part of a stable at once. So I'm kind of surprised to see them going the route of that. Let's see, SD package. I'm just very quickly reading the way. I need to catch up more on 205 Live later, not during the live podcast. Let's go over to NXT and get the quick results for NXT this week, guys. And again, I hope to catch up on all shows next week and have a review for each and every show for next week's podcast. But like I said at the onset of the podcast this week, I am recovering from a cold. And it's been kind of a hard week. So, again, guys, please I apologize for not being 100% prepared. But I hope for next week will be a lot better. Let's see, for NXT this week, the opening match was the Forgotten Sons defeating Humberto Carrillo, Orny Lorcan, and Danny Burch. Apparently, Bianca Belair's got a problem with Mia Yim. Dominic Dijakovic, Dijakovic, I'd like to hear anyone pronounce that name, defeated Mansoor. And then in the main event, it was Kushida making his debut on NXT, defeating Cassius Ohno. And that pretty much rounds out NXT this week. And this will pretty much round out the podcast for this week. I'd like to thank everyone who joined me this week. That is Rick Head and Lance. Rick Head, again, is a part of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/HWR chat room. Be sure you guys check them out. And Lance, what can fans expect to see when they come visit your channel over on youtube.com/Lance Moss TV?
Well, every Wednesday night at around 6:30 or at 6 Central. I'm not sure what that is everywhere around the world, but I go live on Lance Moss TV and friends. I never know who's going to show up. And every Friday, I go live with Lunch with Lance Moss TV and Friends. It's around 12:30 Central, which is roughly 2 hours before right now. I'm trying to get back into the video production thing, but I'm trying to get a whole season done of Redneck Gourmet.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to be my summer series. On Twitter, it's at Lance Moss TV.
Don't forget, every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central Time, right here on twitch.tv/stackup.org, we have WrestleDOWN, the discussion of wrestling. Now, if you want to catch us live and be a part of the interactivity and be part of the fun here on Twitch, be sure you go to stackup.org for that. Be sure you also check out my personal Twitch channel at twitch.tv/WrestleGamer. And don't forget, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, be sure you leg up that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to turn on notifications. And that way you guys will never miss out on another video right here on my channel. So with my thanks to Rick Head and Lance Moss from Hardcore Wrestling Radio, I'm your friendly neighborhood Wrestle Gamer, reminding all of you guys out there to just stay awesome. Bye, guys!